We're at a local music studio focused on an upcoming beach music event. We'll tell you all about it coming up next on Carolina People. Good morning. Welcome to Carolina People. This morning we're in Quinby, South Carolina at Bradley House Studios. We're focused on the legends of beach music, performing with the Long Bay Symphony this Sunday at 7 p.m. at Myrtle Beach High School. And we're visiting with Fred Shaw, the owner of Bradley House Studios, and active member of the Sugar Bees. Fred, thanks so much for being with us this morning.
Greg, thanks for doing the show here today.
Incredible opportunity all week to highlight the big event coming up this Sunday night at Myrtle Beach High School, 7 p.m. Obviously, Charles Jones Evans will be in a minute to talk about much of the pieces that will be performing.
Yeah, the time that goes into putting this thing together is unbelievable. I mean, you're talking about bringing a rhythm section together along with an orchestra and then three of the most famous people in South Carolina. You know, it's just going to be quite an event.
Yeah, and the rhythm section, is that something you're going to be involved in?
Yeah, we have a band, the Sugar Bees, and we started out several years ago when Marion Carter from Repeat Records actually put our band together and used us to back up many beach music artists that were released on Repeat Records. And Marion and I became very good friends, and he recommended that we just put our own CD together, and we've done 3 CDs so far, and we've had a lot of success, but mainly we specialize in backing up other artists in the studio. That's how we get started. And so we're going to take the Sugar Bees session players, and we're going to put them as a rhythm section, the drums, bass, piano, and guitar, and we're going to put that behind the orchestra that Charles will be directing, and we're going to back up Billy Scott, Bill Pinkney, and Maurice Williams.
And not to take any thunder away from Charles, but will those guys be performing together or independently and then maybe later together, or is it a secret?
It's kind of a secret.
Yeah.
It's going to be enjoyable. I can guarantee you that. It's going to be great.
Great. Let's talk real quick about yourself, Fred. Are you originally from the area?
No, I was born and raised in Windham, Maine, and my whole family moved out of Windham, Maine when I was about 13 years old, and we've been in the South ever since.
Is that right? Primarily in South Carolina?
Yes.
Great. When did you first become interested in music?
I became interested in music when I was about maybe 8 years old. My older brother, he had a set of drums that he had in his bedroom, and I used to get out of school an hour before him, and I'd go in there and play around, and then when he'd get out of school, he'd come kick me out of his room. So I've always had the desire to play the drums, and he also had all kinds of reel-to-reels and record players and all kinds of equipment, and I used to go in there and just try to patch it all together, and I learned how to do sound on sound and, and all kinds of unique things that, that I was just playing around at the time. So I didn't even realize, the things that I was doing at such a young age I'd be using to make my living now. So it's pretty amazing.
And your family supported you in this? Your parents were supportive? Obviously, your brother was kicking you out of the room. But,
yeah, well, my mom and dad knew that I always had a love for music, and they always tried to support my music. I worked in the family car business up until about 18 years ago, and I told my dad one day, I said, Dad, I want to just step into the music business full time and run a recording studio and play my drums. And he was like, "Are you crazy?" So, but now he's very proud. I've made a good living at it, and we've had a lot of success here. So I was the first one. My family has 4 generations of Ford dealers, and I was the first one to break away from the car business. And
is that right?
Yeah.
How about that brother who was kicking off the drums? Has he stayed in the business?
Yeah, he's in the car business, and he plays a little guitar. And each family member that I have 2 brothers and a sister, and everybody has a little bit of music. But I was the first one and the only one in the family to really just jump in, with both feet.
Now, the Sugar Bees wasn't the first band you were associated with.
No, I've played in a lot of local groups, and I've also played with major artists like Joe Simon. I've played for Chuck Berry. I've played for a lot of major artists around the country. I've been playing with Maurice Williams a lot. I've been playing with Bill Pinkney a lot. I've been working with Billy Scott in the studio on his new album. So, I'm kind of getting a feel for what's about to happen with this event with the Long Bay.
When when you think of yourself, or when people think of Fred Shaw, is there a particular type of music that you're focused on? You mentioned some beach music legends. Obviously, Bill Pinkney, I think, will be in tomorrow, and he presents himself as an international legend, crossing lots of different music boundaries.
Yeah. I love all styles of music. It's kind of funny that the music that I'm most known for is black gospel. I started recording black gospel artists 18 years ago. The first black gospel band that I remember recording was the Brown Brothers from Florence. They've been an established band for over 40 years, and we started recording a lot of black gospel groups. There's so much talent around this area; it's just incredible. You know, just regular working folks that go to church and they have their church group and they come into the studio and they love to record. It's amazing the talent, you know, that's just in this area, you know, that I've been exposed to, that I've met. But when people in the black gospel music community hear the name Fred Shaw, they think about Keith Wonderboy Johnson's "Be Right." That was a major Billboard hit. The Williams Sisters, Doc McKenzie and the Gospel Highlights. Joe Simon's done gospel recordings. Maurice Williams, we just recorded his inspirational gospel CD. So many gospel groups. We've just signed a few. We've got a small gospel label. The group of New Awakenings just been signed. Flossie and the Singing Sisters just been signed. So much going on in black gospel. I mean, that's where I really I get the most excited when I talk about black gospel. But then we've got Beach Boogie and Blues, you know, Bill Pinkney. And Bill also has a gospel group. He'll do a gospel concert because he just loves gospel music. And then he goes out and does, you know, he'll go to a casino and do the drifters. And so he's just getting the best of both worlds, you know. So, you know, really in this area in South Carolina and Quinby, you know, there's so much going on that people don't even realize here, you know, as far as music goes. And I would just say, you know, black gospel's my first love, and then from then on, I guess it would go out to Beach Boogie and Blues and R&B. And
I'm blown away by all you're involved in, Fred. And now, but I want to ask a quick point, and it seems like a funny distinction, but you mentioned black gospel. Is there any? I mean, are there other types of gospel music, or? Well,
you got, you know, contemporary Christian, which would be, you know, what I consider white gospel. It's kind of got a country flavor to it, and then you've got, you know, black gospel. You've got quartets and traditional gospel, you know, which goes way back to even the slave days when they used to sing in the fields and all that. And then you've got contemporary black gospel, which would be, you know, like a choir with a band backing up the choir. And you know, there's different styles of gospel music. My favorite is just quartet. You know, the back to the basics. That's what I love to do because people are really. They're singing with their hearts, you know, and that's when you actually get the most entertainment, you know, of what they're performing is when they go back to where it all started. That seems to me that's what I enjoy the most.
Well, Fred, where we're taping all this week is one of your many studios within your entire facility here, and I wanted to ask you what prompted you to build your Bradley House studio in Quinby. First, B, how you got the name Bradley House, and C, maybe you could give the viewers a sense of what you've got out here.
Well, I started out with a partner, Harry O'Brien, in Atlanta, and Harry and he had a very small studio, and he's the one that taught me how to engineer, and he and I were going to buy a studio called Perfection Sound in Atlanta, and it had an A room and a B room, 2 studios, cassette manufacturing, and a mastering facility. And we actually made the deal with the owner, and we were going to lease it with an option to buy. And a week before we moved in, the owner died of a heart attack, and his wife said, nope, we're stopping everything. They ended up giving the studio to his daughter and son-in-law. So Harry and I are just like, uh-oh, what do we do now? So Harry took all his equipment and went to his house, and I took all my equipment, and I had just purchased this house, and I just decided, well, I'm just going to build it here, and we'll see what happens, you know. So we ended up, you know, I'm surprised at how busy we've been here. I mean, we basically run both studios. We have the B room, which we're in here. We do a lot of hip-hop and R&B here. This studio runs several days a week. The A room is booked around the clock. For an example of how we work in the A room, I started at about 8 o'clock yesterday morning. I got done about 2 o'clock in the morning. I got up at 8 o'clock this morning. We did Maurice Williams' background vocals on a new song he's working for a movie in Hollywood. And we just got done with that. I'm doing this interview, and when I walk out of here, we're going to go work with the Men of Distinction, and we'll work all day with them. And then after I get done with that, I've got a gospel video that I need to edit until about 2 o'clock in the morning, and then it all starts again.
So
I work a lot, and you know, I guess I'd be considered a workaholic, and I enjoy what I do, and I just can't imagine being able to wake up in the morning and go to work and love what you do all day and all night, and get up the next morning and you'll love to do it again. So, you know, I just hope that I continue to feel that way. And every aspect of this business I love. It's great.
That is amazing, Fred. You have folks helping you out, or is it? I mean, you've got
I got my wife, you know, Emily Shaw. If it wasn't for her, none of this would be possible. She does all the bookings. She handles all the bookings, all the business. She does all our graphic designs. We do in-house cassette and CD duplication. She takes care of anything, any print that you see. She's been designing graphics for years, and we've been working together for years, and we love each other dearly, and we love our business together.
It's wonderful, Fred.
Yep. And my daughter works with us. My daughter helps us run cameras. I've got about 8 or 10 people that help us from time to time, depending on what we're doing. We did James Bignon's live video up in Sioux City, Iowa, a few months ago, and I took 12 people to go do that. You know, we have a 45-foot Eagle bus that we travel with. It has the audio and video equipment live. You know, we record with Pro Tools now, and we take all that stuff with us. We set it up live, do the live concert, bring it back to the studio, do all the editing, and burn a final DVD. It's finished.
That's amazing, Fred. Would you say that when you think of anyone in particular over your life who's inspired you musically, who's been the inspiration, you know, you think back to the day you said snagging your brother's sticks and playing in there, that probably wasn't the inspiration that's affected you musically. Is there anyone in particular when you think back?
When I first heard Stay by Maurice Williams, that song has echoed in my mind my whole life. And when I finally got the opportunity to work with Maurice Williams and to see what a humble person he is and how creative he is and how talented he is, he can come up, you know, the hardest part of producing a record is getting those background vocals the way they need to be. Maurice pulls that stuff out of his head just like that. I mean, it's incredible. So I would say, you know, the highlight of my career so far is working with Bill Pinkney and Maurice Williams, and Billy Scott and I have started a new record, and we're working together. I love him and his whole band. Everybody's so great. So I would say, you know, right now the highlight would be working with Bill, Billy Scott, and Maurice Williams.
Just heard Fred Shaw say it. We're sitting in his Bradley House studios. The highlight of his life has been performing and helping out Maurice Williams, Bill Pinkney, and Billy Scott, 3 amazing legends that you can see this Sunday at Myrtle Beach High School, 7 p.m., performing with the Long Bay Symphony. Come out and see Fred Shaw as well, and come visit him here at Bradley House Studios in Quinby, South Carolina. Fred, thanks so much for being with us this morning.
Thanks, Greg. Thank you so much.
Stay tuned to more Carolina People coming up next. Good morning. Welcome back to Carolina People. This morning we're focused on the Long Bay Symphony presents the Legends of Beach Music, which will be held this Sunday at 7 p.m. at Myrtle Beach High School. And we're visiting with Maestro Charles Jones Evans, the music director and conductor for the Long Bay Symphony. Charles, thanks so much for being with us this morning.
My pleasure.
Incredible opportunity all week to highlight this weekend's performance. Sunday night, it's getting pretty dang close.
Yeah, it is, and we're all looking forward to it. It's really going to be it is a first ever event. I mean, I myself have even combined other styles of music with the symphony, like rock and roll. We've done rock and roll concerts in Memphis, Elvis concerts, things like that. But as far as I know, this is the first time these beach music legends beach music has been paired with the symphony.
That's what Harry was saying yesterday. Yeah. The idea was very novel, and it you all have been preparing for this for how long, Charles?
Oh, we've been planning it for virtually a year. I mean, we had to make the decision to program it for this season, last year, and we put it on and have been talking about the shape of the performance and all of that for a long time.
And that's how the symphony works every year. You've got to plan well in advance.
Oh yeah, it's like an aircraft carrier. I mean, you can't just turn on a dime. You know, you've got to make plans, put brochures out. It's just typical business.
Charles, you originally from the area?
No, originally from Dallas, Texas. So I consider myself a Southerner, although I didn't realize that I was not until I came to the Southeast region.
Oh, my God.
I've worked in various places. I did most of my schooling up north. I went to the Cleveland Institute in Cleveland, Ohio, and then the Eastman School of Music in Rochester, New York, as well as SMU in Dallas. And all during that time, I considered myself a Southerner. But my first job was with the Mississippi Symphony. And I realized at that time I was no Southerner. I was told that. I was a Texan. But I consider myself a Southerner.
Right. You're an outsider in Mississippi. Hopefully you're, and I'm sure you worked well into the community. Then where's some of the other locations you've served as a conductor prior to arriving in Myrtle Beach?
Oh, well, as I said, in Jackson, Mississippi, and Memphis, Tennessee, and Arkansas. I still have an orchestra there in Pine Bluff, which is just south of Little Rock. And North Carolina, in Greensboro, I worked with the Eastern Music Festival for many years. So I've just sort of been around the whole southern area.
Yes, wow. Charles, what was your first introduction to music as a child?
Oh, my father. Yeah, my father, ironically, also went to the Eastman School of Music. He was an organist. And while I didn't take to it as far as being actively interested when I was a very small child, I was around it all the time. And so by the time I was 10 or 11, it started to really interest me. And my father, ironically, had tried to push lessons and so on my two older brothers, and it didn't take at all. So he gave up by the time it came to me, and I was the one who took interest. So, but I was always around that kind of thing, and he was always ready to support it. When I was ever curious about something, he had already gone out and bought the material, and sort of either for my birthday or Christmas or something, he would give me scores, and I'd say, "Oh, Dad, why did you do that?" And then within a year or two, I realized what he was providing me with.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Even at an early age, to be able to look back and figure out what he was doing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he obviously was trying to give me, as we all do as parents, he was trying to give me opportunities that he didn't have.
Was there an age where you recognized that you were going to make music your career?
I think it was like 14.
Is that right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Golly, Charles Jones Evans, that's amazing. That's a big deal.
Well, it was that much fun. I mean, I think, and it's funny, I see this in students in the youth orchestra, which I also conduct here, the Long Bay Symphony Youth Orchestra. You see these kids who come in at a very elementary stage, and you say, oh, yeah, sure, let's bring them in, they'll learn. And you see at a certain point, the light bulb goes on, and they just, it's just amazing the progress they make at that point, because they've realized this is something they really love.
So, wow, Charles, that must be exciting to be able to see them and to recognize that.
And especially to be able to impart that and give them the tools for that in this area, and to see that cultural element grow up around here.
How long has the Youth Symphony been in existence?
About 10 or 11 years, at least.
Is that right?
Yeah, maybe 11 years, yeah.
Can you give the viewers, the bulk of our viewers are in the PD and up in Robinson and Scotland County. Obviously, a good chunk are in Horry County. A lot of folks may not be familiar with the Long Bay Symphony. Can you give the viewers a sense real quick of the makeup of the symphony and how often you all perform and what goes into preparing for a season?
Yeah, sure. The orchestra is about 15 years old, so I mean everything on the beach is fairly young,
Right.
But it's made tremendous strides. When I came into the job, I guess 7 years ago, they had some internal strife, which of course is typical of arts organizations anyway. But over the years, we've made a transition from more of a volunteer-type group to a professional group. And, of course, with that is all of the things like a youth orchestra program, musicians going into the schools, providing that service to educate the students about individual instruments, also chamber groups like string quartets and brass quintets and so on, and then providing educational performances for the students as well with a full orchestra. So we have that whole facet. But as we've gone from a more community to professional, we're looking at highly compact rehearsal formats where you've got professional people, you're paying every one of them to come together and perform. And so we do, it varies, we're in a state of flux with the economy the way it is. We have to be very aware of where we can get our funds and what funds we can come up with. But basically we're talking 5 to 8 subscription concerts a season, and then we do a lot of other programming like outdoor performances, the special things that we get funding from various cities, either North Myrtle Beach or Myrtle Beach ATAX, that kind of thing. So we would just stand at the ready to use, just get a sponsorship and move ahead with the program.
And you spoke of funding. I want to just see real quick where the primary funds come from. The city's support, or is that the primary vehicle?
Yeah, traditionally, a large chunk of our funding has been through the the Myrtle Beach ATAX funds. But we have a tremendous. In fact, that over the years has the ratio has changed quite a bit to where it's by far from being the majority of funds. I'd say, I hate to quote a number, but 20% or less of our funds, so that we're seeking support from corporations, from state grants, national grants, and of course individuals as well. So it's a very complex web, and I don't think a lot of people understand. They love the result of what we get, but they don't really understand the complexity of generating that much money to create a quality product.
I'm sure.
And I would also want to make mention this idea of the Long Bay Symphony. To some, that seems like a mysterious name, but I trust that most of the viewers do realize that the Long Bay, in nautical terms, extends, from up at Cape Fear down to Georgetown, and it describes us, I think, very well, because we consider ourselves reaching out to this entire region, as opposed to being a Myrtle Beach orchestra. We do performances down south, into the county, up into North Carolina. So it's very important for us to define our service area through the title.
That's a very good point, Charles.
Yeah.
I'm glad you explained that. The events within the community as it relates to Coastal Carolina and the Long Bay Symphony, there is a relation there. You're an instructor, or is
right?
That
I'm a product of actually Dr. Engel's idea to enable the orchestra to bring in a full-time musical leader, which was to have a combined position with the university. So I am an artist in residence. I'm unique as far as Coastal Carolina is concerned. I'm the only one with that title, but I share my responsibilities between the university and the symphony.
Obviously, the big focus all week, we've just got a couple of minutes, Charles. A big focus all week is on this Sunday's performance,
right?
Legends of Beach Music.
Yeah, well, we've tried to, over the years, really get outside the envelope a little bit. And I think that's important because people tend to stereotype an orchestra as, Beethoven and Mozart.
Right.
It is, but in addition, there's so many other things. Like if the viewers out there remember any of the rock tunes or beach music tunes or all sorts of tunes that involved, back in those days, a lot of acoustic instruments. That's what we're recreating in this. And it's funny, I'll talk to people about this concert, but they still don't realize that, yes, in fact, Bill Pinkney, Maurice Williams, and Billy Scott will all be on stage performing live with members of their band and some of their backup singers, and the orchestra sweetening the whole thing.
Wow.
So if you think of tunes like, well, one of my favorites is Under the Boardwalk.
Oh, yeah.
The idea that we've got all the string tracks there. And you're not going to hear that nowadays. You're going to hear it on a keyboard. This is the real thing. Maurice Williams, May I? It's just, it's a wonderful orchestral thing. There was already a lot on there. And I'm doing all the arrangements, so I know this stuff intimately. And trying to recreate, really, the way it sounded on the old albums.
And you've laid out if folks who've never been to the symphony before, never seen the orchestra perform, driving in from Florence or Lumberton or Laurinburg, coming down, Myrtle Beach High School is located between 29th and 39th Avenue.
Right. I think just running, Bob Grissom runs right alongside.
Okay.
So you get off of Bypass 17, either of those streets, 38th or 29th, and you're going to turn on Grissom and get to the entrance.
And if a viewer wanted to try to purchase tickets, could they do it there? Would they need to call somewhere beforehand?
I would really advise they call beforehand for this concert, because this is going to be a big walk-up concert. Most of our tickets are going to be bought right then. And so if you could call ahead, that would put you in much better stead. And the number is, and you'll see it on the screen, is 448-8379. And I also wanted to mention, too, another little twist on this concert. Since these are songs that are so full of memories for people, and we're just after Valentine's Day, I came up with the idea of folks being able to make dedications. So if one of these songs has a special ring to it, someone can call the office and for a certain fee dedicate the song, and the artist will dedicate it live on stage. And like I mentioned, we've got Under the Boardwalk, Ruby Baby, the list goes on and on.
Right.
My Kind of Girl of Billy Scott.
Right.
There's a list at the office, and they can call in and see which ones we have and which ones haven't been claimed.
Okay.
And they'll be dedicated.
We're visiting with Maestro Charles Jones Evans, the conductor and music director of the Long Bay Symphony. Call the office, 843-448-8379, for tickets, and if you can dedicate a song, pick it right there. Charles, thanks so much for being with us this morning.
My pleasure.
Stay tuned to more Carolina People coming up next. Don't forget, Myrtle Beach High School Auditorium, this Sunday, 7 o'clock, 3 beach music legends perform in concert with the Long Bay Symphony. You better call ahead for tickets. Call 843-448-8379.